can Europe achieve sovereignty and resiliency in financial services and payment systems by applying mission-critical expertise and AI innovation? With nearly 30 years of proven results in banking and finance, as well as in mission-critical sectors like space, aviation and rail, critical software ensures reliability where failure simply isn't an option.
The same mission-critical expertise is helping power the future of finance, reducing downtime, providing instant recovery and ensuring regulatory-grade trust in global transactions. Well, to look at this in more detail, we're joined by Pedro Leite, Head of Sales and Partnerships, Banking, Financial Services and Insurance at Critical Software. Welcome, Pedro. I hope you've had a fruitful Frankfurt experience over...
It's been definitely a busy Sibos, I can tell you.
I bet it has. I bet it has. Well, let me start with this. How can AI enhance resilience in global payment systems where downtime is unacceptable?
Yeah, great question, right? So we have been applying AI for, exactly to prevent and identify, failovers in the system. That means that we can infuse, real-time monitoring into the system, which is critical. It allows us to identify in real time what are the challenges and the failovers that might exist. And also, which is actually a key point here, is to launch automatically real-time responses to those challenges, which will undoubtedly means that these systems move from we're trying to predict, failures and challenges, and to being predictably mitigating those failures and automatically launching these solutions to the system, which basically allows that the payments keep flowing, like the spacecraft is moving, and we don't want any issues with that movement. So the payments keep flowing and the transactions keep moving.
And let's expand on that. What does zero downtime and instant recovery really look like within financial services?
Well, that's actually a challenge for banking because unlike some of these mission critical systems, these are very client and consumer facing systems. So that means that for the client, nothing is happening, right? So there's zero downtime as a client. I don't experience any issue with if I'm making that transaction or making that payment, right? Which is actually happening under the hood is these complex systems are self-healing. Now, even powered by AI, they take it a little bit to the max, to be honest. So they allow us to both from the user experience to feel nothing, while there's actually a lot of stuff happening under the hood. And again, ultimately, what we want is the payment to keep flowing, that transaction to be happening, and the money needs to flow, right? So that's what we want.
Now, Europe is pushing for more independence in payments. What role can technology partners play in building sovereign and resilient rail?
Yeah, that's actually a key topic nowadays, right? And actually, Sibos we have a global, audience here, so it's interesting to see that. In some of the more European-focused conferences that we have seen this push for autonomy, European resilience. And what actually that means is we need to look at payment rails as strategic assets, right? So mission critical things that, states and banks and institutions need to take care of. What that means from an engineering point of view, that's where we come in, failover needs to be infused within engineering techniques that allow us to make sure that these systems are resilient. They are capable of suffering, some challenge that we put into the system by self default or by, unfortunately, outsider that is trying to push the system to stress, and the system should be able to be self-healing in the sense that it can autonomously push that what it needs to push, right?
Now, critical software comes from sectors like space, aviation, and defense. What can banking learn from mission-critical engineering within those fields? Yeah,
we always tell a story. We started our first client, almost 30 years ago was NASA, right? It was really about this project that one of our founders developed, injecting faults into the system that was actually trying to push the system to the max. So we make sure that when the satellite is going up, nothing happens. So we have been bringing these, this mindset, engineering skills and methodologies into banking already for a lot of years, to be honest. So again, the whole spirit is really, how can we make these systems resilient? Nowadays, with AI self-healing and much more proactive, dynamic in terms of sustaining these stacks, it's really about this resiliency from the European perspective. Not only needs to be a mindset and a political will, but also we need to build that into the system and not just wishful thinking.
Of course, resilience is also about compliance. How do you see AI supporting regulatory demands like operational resilience frameworks and instant payments oversight?
Yeah, the European landscape is really, this is a major point, I would say, especially when we compare it to the US, right? We were having a conversation with Deutsche Bank during the conference where we were obviously discussing, how over-regulated is Europe, versus the other areas. And obviously we can agree that we are a little bit, and because ultimately consumer protection is always top of mind for the regulators. I would argue that we need to scale back a little bit and be allow to innovation to flourish through the system without compromise, right? So if you build good, sustainable, strong software, resilient by design in the backbone, right? So then from a regulatory landscape, you should be able to allow, the institutions to push a little bit, the boundaries, because if you look at the AI Act and everything like that, you might argue, yes, we are keeping in mind the consumer protection as top of mind, but we should not, hinder any type of innovation that our institutions and even our vendors and software developers need to be able to push.
And how exactly do you balance global best practices with the specific needs of, let's say, German, Austrian, Swiss, as well as European banks?
Yeah, so it's the same mindset and methodology. We bring non-banking experience from the other areas, and we try to infuse that into our own experience and the deployments that we do with the financial sector. We bring the other experience that we have in the other geographies, right? We are in Africa, we're in the US, we are in the Middle East a little bit as well. So we try to infuse that experience into the systems, right, into the design, and because obviously we can learn, right? And this is what Sibos is about, right? We can learn from all the experience that we have from the players that are a little bit geographically far off, but they bring new ideas into the table.
Now, at Sibos, we see platforms, fintechs, and banks collaborating. But where do you see the biggest opportunity for partnerships that accelerate this transformation?
Obviously, so there's a lot of productization happening in the industry for a lot of years now. So our role actually as critical software is to try to make all that function in a cohesive solution. There is always an integration dynamic. There is always some specific need that needs to be filled. So it's picking best of breeds, right? So actually, I'm quoting a banker that I know. It's all about build what you need to build as a differentiator and buy what is not differentiatable, right? So, and obviously, as these systems are more and more productized, you need to be sure that they have the level of resilience and failover that you want for these systems.
And just a final question, if you had to define the next mission critical moment for financial institutions, what would that be?
Well, I think we're already there, right? It's everything in real time now, right? So everyone is talking real time payments, real time everything. So I think this is actually what we have been founding in this industry for years, and what we have been infusing into the system, right? So it's instantaneously looking at the system, be able to not fail, and obviously failure is not an option, right? So that's the key point for our non-banking system that we have developed, and that's what we're bringing to the banking system for a while now.
Well, big thank you, Pedro, for sharing all of that. It seems like you're going to have a very busy road ahead.
Oh, yeah.
And enjoy the last day of Sibos. That was Pedro Leite, Head of Sales and Partnerships, Banking, Financial Services and Insurance at Critical Software. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much.